Kitco Mining special coverage of BMO's Global Metals, Mining and Critical Minerals is brought to you by First Majestic Silver.
Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining with me, Paul Harris, here at the 2025 BMO Global Metals and Mining and Critical Minerals Conference in Hollywood, in Florida. M&A is on everybody's lips, and joining me this morning is Keith Neumeyer, President and CEO of our sponsor here, First Majestic Silver, which recently closed the acquisition of Gatos Silver. Keith, welcome back to Kitco.
Oh, great seeing you, Paul.
Likewise. Let's start with Gatos Silver. You closed that acquisition in January, and that brings you the Los Gatos mine. That was a $970 million transaction. Talk us through the rationale for that transaction and what you expect its impact to be on your performance this year.
It's kind of funny because we started talking to Gatos at this conference last year, and they decided to put a process in place. So there were several bidders trying to buy that company. It's a very unique business. It's only been in production for a couple of years. Very nice, very modern mill, producing somewhere in the order of 13 to 14 million ounces silver equivalent on a full 100% basis. The acquisition we ended up owning through the closing of the deal, 70% of the Los Gatos mine, which was about 9 million ounces of silver equivalent on our books. So taking our production up from 21 million to about 32 million ounces per year, it's pretty sizable. That's equivalent ounces. So that's 53% silver and 35% gold, and the rest is in lead and zinc. So it really is a transformational transaction for us.
Excellent. Now, in some ways, you could argue that this transaction sees First Majestic Silver getting back to its roots, which is silver in Mexico, after previously branching out into gold in the United States. So, as I say in Latin America, zapatero to zapatos. Is this a conscious strategy to sort of get back to your roots?
It was really asset dependent. We were following Gatos for a couple of years, and they had some challenges when they first came public. And the current, or the previous the last management team, I should say, did a heck of a job turning that around and getting that up in profitable production as it is today. And it just became time for us to do another deal. And these silver mines are very rare. There's not too many of them around. And with Coeur taking out Silvercrest, a month after we did the deal with Gatos, there's 2 less silver companies out there now. It's pretty interesting market. There's really only about 4 or 5, producing silver companies that have any kind of size.
Well, I want to sort of dig into that a little bit more and how the dynamic in the silver sector is evolving. You've just bought Gatos, as you mentioned. Coeur is buying Silvercrest, and another recent transaction, one of the largest silver development projects, Discovery Silver and their Cordero. Discovery Silver is buying into the Porcupine gold mine in Ontario in Canada, so it's dramatically changing its focus or its modus operandi there. How do you see the dynamic in the silver sector evolving?
Well, the supply is not going up, or at least I don't see it going up. The miners have been supplying about 830 to 850 million ounces of silver per year for the last 10 years. And there's a couple of mines out there that could come into production, but doesn't appear they're going to be producing anytime soon. So that 850 million ounces looks like it's going to flatline for the foreseeable future. The demand, however, is substantially increasing. We're approaching 1.4 billion ounces of consumption in silver, for electronics, AI, data centers, nuclear power plants, unfortunately war machines as well. A lot of silver goes into that industry. So the demands for silver don't seem to be going backwards, and they're going up dramatically, and I don't see that changing.
We've seen that reflected in the silver price in recent months. It's been well over $30 per ounce. I think it's currently around $34 per ounce. The last time we were at these levels was arguably sort of 15 years ago, and then silver went on to go up to $50 around. Are we on the way back up there?
Well, let's hope so. We're trading at 90 to 1 gold ratio. And I know there's people out there that don't really think much about the gold ratio, but I'm one of those individuals that do believe in the gold ratio. And I don't know how the mining sector can mine only 7 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold being mined worldwide, and we have a financial ratio of 90 to 1. that to me makes no sense. It's got a lot to do with the paper market, because there is a lot of paper, silver out there, and because it's such an industrial market, the banks, do use paper to supply silver, to the physical buyer, and they use the markets to hedge against those trades, which creates, this large amount of paper silver in the market. So it does have some negative impacts, on the silver price, but that doesn't necessarily have to last forever. One of these days, one of these banks is going to get an order, and they're not going to be able to fill it. That's my opinion. And when that happens, then these banks will have to go into the market and start buying back their positions, which would be the beginning of a new trend or a new price for the metal. And I'm on record saying triple-digit silver, and every time I say it, people think I'm crazy, but I'm a true believer that that's where it should be.
Now, Keith, you mentioned the paper market, and one of the things you've done is you study your own refining and mint business based in Las Vegas in Nevada. And in addition to, I think you said there's dual drivers there. One, you get paid more for the silver you produce because there's fewer middlemen, but also it reduces the amount of silver available in the paper market. How is that strategy working out?
Well, it's early days. The mint has only been in production since March of last year. We had a record year, mind you. We had a record quarter, selling a lot of silver. We're producing unique products like 1776 bar, where we did the Lunar series. We just released the Snake. We released the Dragon a couple months ago. So we've got some pretty unique products that are selling. We just hired a couple of new marketing staff into that business, and I'm optimistic that we're going to grow it substantially. We got about 5% of our annual production through that mint in 2024. Our goal in 2025 is to get 10% of our production through the mint.
Okay, we are at an investor event. Metals price is doing well, silver price, gold price. Is investor love coming back?
Well, as a mining company, we have to be here. This is the mining conference, for institutional investors worldwide. So all the big players are here, all the big mining companies are here. So it's a great event to, shake hands and rub shoulders with some of the, who's who in the mining sector. I know many of them, and we have, and BMO treats us very well. So it's nice to be here. But the institutional money, still is really not coming into this sector. And you would think, at $2,900 gold and, $33 silver, the institutions would be just jumping all over this market. Our free cash flow in Q4 was $68 million, a record free cash flow quarter. And I think the stock was up a couple pennies when we put that out. Q1 will be another record quarter with Gatos being put into the picture, and Q2 will be another record quarter after that because of Gatos. So, the future is very bright for First Majestic, but it's just definitely not showing up in the share price.
What would you think is holding institutional investors back? What is it they want to see or need to see?
It's a good. I get asked that question all the time, and I just think there's so much talk about the S&P being so highly valued and the Nasdaq being so highly valued. And I think they're among some funds, and maybe this is too general of a statement, but some funds just think there's going to be a stock market correction of some kind, and whether it's 15 or 20 or 25%, and if such a correction did occur, that would affect the miners as well. So I think that there's kind of a wait and see attitude out there, but if that correction ever did occur, I would almost suggest, this would be almost like 2001, 2002, when the Nasdaq crashed and gold was at $250, and then there was this rush of money that came into the mining sector in 2002 through 2005, and then we had a 10-year bull market in the mining sector with gold hitting 1,800 and silver going through up to 50. So I'm thinking we're going to see that all over again.
Okay, so the time will come at some point. Okay, you mentioned a bit about your performance last year in 2024, record free cash flow, but you had a sort of $42 million loss for the year. What went well for the company? What didn't? What was the loss about?
Well, there's a slide on our PowerPoint presentation. It should be on our website that shows every quarter comparison for 2024. every quarter this year, we produced more silver than the previous quarter. Every quarter this year, also the costs went down every quarter in line. It's just perfect charts. They're on the website. People should go have a look at it. The loss that showed up, it's really a non-cash loss. And this was kind of confusing to some investors because, we have such a large amount of money in pesos. So we're subject to peso currency fluctuation. And also our tax liabilities are all calculated in pesos. And then it's converted into US dollars, and that's how we report it, in US dollars. So, you can get fluctuations of 10% in the value of the peso in one quarter. So you have these very noisy financial statements, which shows these losses every now and then, but they're not real operating losses. I would suggest to investors who are looking at the mining sector, look at mine operating earnings, or look at cash flow. That's really how if the mining company's treasury is growing every quarter, through the sale of metal, and their free cash flowing, they've got a pretty good business. I would pretty well ignore the bottom line, quite frankly.
Okay. Now, there was a presidential election in Mexico last year. Mexico's got a new president. Presumably that had an impact on the currency, some of the fluctuations you've just mentioned. What's the sentiment for mining in Mexico now? This president seems to be Claudia Sheinbaum. She seems to be more sympathetic towards the mining sector, not as abrasive as her predecessor.
Yeah, for sure. And, definitely we're not seeing those very flamboyant headlines, that we saw, against the mining sector from the previous administration. She's really calmed down the tone a lot. It's early days still. It's only been a few months, but there are permits now being granted. We've got a couple. We've been told we've got a couple that we're waiting on, and they've told us we'll have our permits in the next couple of weeks. It's for tailings rehabilitation and so on. But you need those permits from the environmental authorities to do that work. But other mining companies have been getting permits, so yeah, it looks like a big change is coming in Mexico, which is nice to see.
And has she got a 4-year term, a 6-year term?
6 years.
So that bodes very well for the more than foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you've got an acquisition to digest. So what are your goals and what's your guidance for this year?
Well, the guidance on a production level is around 32 million silver equivalent ounces, and our cost, for that will be somewhere around 19 to 20 in that range, all-in sustaining cost. Cash flowing. It's hard. It's really hard to say because metal prices. If we have metal prices stay where they are today, we'll have around $200 million in free cash flow for 2025. The treasury right now is quite strong. We have almost $400 million in the bank right now, which is the highest treasury we've ever had in the history of the company. We went through a bit of a hard time over the last couple of years. We had, the Licantata lose their water source, or at least a third of their water source. We had the labor relations issues at San Dimas, and then we had the Jerritt Canyon issue as well. So those three issues, I think, really kind of hurt us in a way. And now those are behind us. Licantata's back on track again. We got the water all hooked back up. San Dimas labor issues are now behind us, which is fantastic. And now we've got, and Santa Elena's just, always doing fantastic, which is great. And now we've got Los Gatos. So we've got 3 mines that are over budget and 1 mine that's slightly under budget.
Okay, you said you're sitting on a record cash position. What's your capital allocation strategy for this year? We're
going to buy back stock. We have been in the market already. We news released just a couple weeks ago the shares we bought back in last quarter. And that program is continuing. So look for more news on our share buyback program. But really, I just want to hoard cash. That's really we don't have any real big capital expenditure projects in 2025, and I want to see ending 2025 with a very substantial treasury. That's our goal.
Hoarding cash, building a war chest, another potential acquisition in the future.
Got to get ready.
Okay. In the context of that, Keith, where do you want to get First Majestic Silver to in the next, let's say, 5 years? What do you want it to look like?
My goal, I've said this to other people, is and to have a 50 million ounce producer. And, we're not there. We're about 32 million. So that's silver equivalent, of course. But, it's going to take a while. It's going to take good assets. We're invested in some juniors right now. We watch the space very closely. As companies develop or build and improve their businesses, all of a sudden they could potentially be targets for us. But you can't predict this kind of thing. I couldn't tell you anyways, but it always takes two to tango.
Excellent. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that, and we thank you very much for your support. Keith Neumeyer, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Paul.
And we have a lot more to come from the 2025 BMO Global Metals Mining and Critical Minerals Conference here in Hollywood in Florida. So hit that subscribe button. I'm Paul Harris, and this is Kitco Mining.
Kitco Mining special coverage of BMO's Global Metals, Mining and Critical Minerals is brought to you by First Majestic Silver.